Jerry and Esther had their annual trek north to Alaska. And in the process left their bus at the place that repairs it. And that place was no better this time than last time, or the time before, or the time before, or the time before. And Esther argued with us. But Abraham, I know I cleaned up my vibration. Why are they still bad? They're so disorganized. We left our bus for a full month, and they didn't work on it until we got back. And then they didn't have time to do it. Just like before. And we said, we know. It's not right. It's not right that you get exactly what you're offering vibrationally. And Esther argued, no, it's right that I get what I'm vibrating. I just don't think I was vibrating that. I don't think that I was thinking anything close to the thoughts that were equivalent to the irresponsible, lackadaisical, uncaring, unfeeling, sloppy behavior that they offered to me. When you're standing right in the middle of it, it feels so valid to... So then Esther went on to explain to us, we had the appointment for months, Abraham. Look at all of these emails where we have agreements with what they will do. And even though they are replacing the tile, they have agreed that they will do the engine work first. And look here, it says that they will put this kind of tile in and they will finish it off on the steps in this way. And no one there talked to anyone. It's like there was a total lack of communication. Just like before. And we say, that's the rub, isn't it? The rub to deliberate creation is to expect beyond what is. And you don't know whether you've accomplished it until it manifests, unless you're aware of the way it feels. So we said, Esther, how did it feel when you dropped the bus off? And Esther said, oh, it felt great. He said, really? How did it feel when you dropped the bus off? She said, oh, I was so full of positive anticipation. We said, really? How did it feel when you dropped the bus off? And Esther said, well, I was really hoping. I was so hoping that they would. And we said, hoping what? I was so hoping that they would all be different than they'd ever been before. I was hoping that one guy had moved on to another place. Or maybe that he had been run over by a truck. Either way, it would have been all right with me. In other words, it wasn't until the manifestation unfolded that Esther was even able to come to any awareness that her vibration was there. In other words, her expectation of that place is what it is. And she would argue, and she would be right, that place trained her into her expectation. In other words, they trained her to expect that from them. There are a lot of things like that out there, aren't there? In other words, it's easy to look at the economy and hear what's happening, or listen to the news, or listening to a medical report, or listen to the complaints of others around you. It's easy to let what is train you into your vibration. But when you let what is be the factor of why you offer a vibration, you drag now with you into your next experience, and into your next experience, and into your next experience. And just taking your attention from it doesn't clean up the vibration of where you were. You've heard us say that you could just pet your cat. Step 1 is contrast causes you to ask. Step 2 is source answers. Step 3 is you just have to find vibrational alignment with what you're asking for. And you've heard us say that you're asking, and your vortex is full of good stuff. And if you would just find one thing to focus upon, then that one thing that you focus upon would be enough to hold you in this vibrational place of well-being. What this experience brought to Esther, she was sitting and talking to the man. And she said to him, you know, we like you very much and we adore our boss. And it's so important to our experience because we really count on it. We use it. And everything we need is in it. And it must go when we want to go. And these engine shutdown lights are alarming to us. And then she said to him, this place sucks the life out of me. Because, now, this wasn't the first day she was there. This was 30 days in. After, by her words, they'd worn her down. This place sucks the life out of me. And then she heard herself say something that when she said it, she knew was not true. She said, and this is the only place I have trouble. Which makes you extra, extra, extra wrong. My life is perfect in every other way. So it must not be me, it must be you. Now she is having a congenial conversation with this man, really she is. They're laughing, they're agreeing, they're sympathizing with one another. He's telling her how hard his job is, and she knows how hard it must be. There are 5 million moving parts around that place. But as Esther walked away and was driving the next day, she thought, that wasn't a true statement at all. This is not the only place. There's something active in my vibration that shows up there and there and there and there and there and there and there. It's just that it only shows up in one place at a time. It shows up in the most active place at a time. And right now, the most active place is you guys, because you've got my bus. And my bus matters a lot. And so you are the current focus of my dissension. You are the current focus of my vibrational dissension. But before I got here, it was that person over there. And before I got here, it was that person over here. And before I got there, it was that over there and that over there and that over there. In other words, sometimes it can be the economy. Sometimes it can be someone else's problem. Sometimes it can be the problem that someone I love is having. Sometimes it's something that's going wrong at the office. Sometimes it's something that's going wrong. In other words, there's always something. Have you ever been in the position where there was always something? There's always something that's a little out of whack. Always something. Always something. And Esther said, I'm going to get to the bottom of what that is. I'm going to get to the bottom of what it is. So we said, begin telling a new story. Well, Esther is discovering that she can tell a new story about this place where they work on her bus. She can tell a new story, but that new story will only take her so far. In other words, she can tell a story about how glad she is to see them all. She is. She loves those people there. She can tell a story about how good they are at their craft, and that's a story that she believes. That's very true. She can tell the story of how hard they work. That's an easy story to tell. She knows they work hard. She can tell the story of how she knows they are in a bind from the economy. She can see that. There are not as many there. Many of their talented people have gone. She can see that it's not the same that it once was. She can tell the story that they're trying hard. She can tell the story that they are effective to some degree. She can tell the story that if they had enough time, they could be completely effective. She can tell that story, but there's a deeper story that needs to be told. There's a deeper story than the behavior there. The deeper story is what's going on vibrationally. What's going on vibrationally with me? What's my expectation? And then Esther realizes that many of them, they're working by the hour. They make these multi-million-dollar buses. She can feel that there's some dissension there. She can feel that there's something that goes on that goes something like, no one should spend this much money on a bus. She can feel that that's sort of rumbling in the vibration. She can particularly feel it with the service writer, who is the one who has control of her bus. She can feel it there. And she knows that she can't make him understand that the more people like her that buy buses, the more people like them have jobs, or the more people like them can buy houses. She knows that she can't go back to the beginning of all of that and make them understand. So she can feel that there is a definite vibrational discord. She can feel, and she is right, that there is some sort of satisfaction that some of the people there are taking, especially those who are in control. They take some sort of satisfaction in torturing her just a little bit because her life is going so much better than anybody's life should be allowed to go. So just because you can afford this bus doesn't mean it's going to be ready when you want it. There's a vibration. Now, she's not making it up. It's a real vibration. It's something that happened. Just like she didn't make it up that they didn't put the right carpet in. Just like she didn't make it up that they didn't do the bullnose tile the way they agreed. Just like she didn't make it up that they waited until the last minute, did engine work 5 days earlier, didn't even turn the engine on to test it until they were driving out and found several hours of work that still needed to be done. She didn't make any of that up. She didn't make it up. She created it. And she didn't make it up. She didn't make it up that this man is seeing her as rich and he's sort of sticking it to her in a little way because it levels the playing field. She didn't make that up either. That's real too. She didn't make it up. But she cannot control their vibration. She cannot control their behavior. She cannot control their attitudes. She cannot control them, but she can control her own vibration. She's got to tell a bigger story. She's got to tell a deeper story. She's got to get beyond the peripheral. She's got to get beyond the surface. She's got to get deeper into the relational experiences with other people. She's got to get into this. This is where she's got to get to. And maybe some of you are having some of the same experiences. If you weren't, we wouldn't be telling you this story. If there was not a vibration of this abounding, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poor, the sick are getting sicker, the well are getting weller, the confused are more confused, the clear are more clear-minded. There is becoming a bigger and bigger crevasse between the vibrational differences. And until you accept that what's happening to you, no matter what it is, hasn't got anything to do with anyone or anything else. It's all about you. And then you dig into the vibrational countenance that you're offering by caring about how you feel as you think about it. Before you know it, you can get to the place where everything will move forward as the larger part of you already has. Creation is about closing the vibrational gap. You see, it isn't about wanting something and then getting it. It's all about the movement, the life that you live between where you are and it. That's why as soon as you get to where you think you want to be, a whole other set of things that you desire opens up before you. So as we're moving forward here today, and we'll bring this subject to closure too as we're moving forward a little bit here and there. We want you to understand that as you begin to tell a better story, that you're probably going to revisit the subject on a myriad of different subjects. In other words, as you tell a different story about one relationship, and then you tell a different story about another relationship, and then you tell another story about another relationship, a whole new layer of relationship issues are going to be revealed to you so that you can begin telling another story about that. The story that ultimately we want you to get to, the story that we ultimately want Esther to get to, we want her to get to the place where she can tell the story that it does not matter across the face of this earth how anyone else feels about her. That their opinion about her has no relevancy to her and no factor in her vibration unless she senses it. See, what's happening to many of you, and the reason that we're telling you this story is because as you become more aware of your vibrational nature, you are observing on many more levels of vibration. When you walk into a room, you observe far more than with your eyes and ears.